A dark figure anxiously walks down a deserted sidewalk, limbs shaking as it passes underneath a flickering street lamp. The eerily silent neighborhood sends shivers down the figure's spine while brown eyes peer down at the invitation residing in his hand. The delicate crimson lettering on the black card keeps his attention focused on the promising words.
Mr. Daniels, we have been watching you. Your taste for particular items has grabbed our attention. Come to 2687 Park Drive at 7 o'clock this evening to acquire something we have created specifically for you.
He trudges further down the street, nervously approaching his destination as an uneasy feeling settles into the pit of his stomach. He cautiously walks up to a tall, wrought iron gate with a golden placard that reads 2687 Park Drive. The index finger of his right hand trembles as he reaches out and presses the red button. It takes only a few seconds for a buzzer to sound and the gate to slowly open. The man winces at the loud and obnoxious screech. It's like hearing nails on a chalkboard. He tightly grips the invitation in his hand while cautiously making his way up the long, brick driveway. Dim lights shine through the dirty windows of the elegant red mansion. He approaches the house faster than he had intended. He takes one wooden step at a time until he steps onto the landing of the porch. The front door is painted black with an old bronze knocker mounted in the middle. He inhales deeply in an attempt to calm his nerves when the door suddenly swings open. A petite woman in a sleek maroon dress stands before him. Her waist-length black hair hangs over her left shoulder while her plump, red lips curl into a pleasant smile.
"You must be Jackson Daniels,"
she softly says.
I am.
He nods.
"Please, come in. We have been waiting for you."
Who is we?
"You will meet my partner soon."
The woman takes a step to the side, allowing Jackson to walk into the opulent entryway. Brilliant, crystal chandeliers hang from the high ceilings, causing the polished granite floor to sparkle. Paintings hung along the wall beside the staircase, covering almost every inch. Jackson's heart begins to beat faster when he hears the door shut. He nervously clears his throat as the woman slowly passes in front of him once more. She motions for him to follow her, silently guiding him through the eerily quiet house, with the echo of her high heels clacking with every step she takes. Jackson's eyes wander all around him as he follows her through a long, narrow corridor. Trinkets and treasures that wouldn't have been out of place in an art gallery decorated the hall. His mouth opens as he starts to ask the woman a question, but it quickly snaps shut. The muscles in his jaw tense at the sudden feeling that they are not alone. Jackson's attention is quickly returned to the woman in front of him when a dim light shines through the door she had just opened. They step into the room. 3 men and 3 women sit on tall, golden thrones upon a raised platform, watching impassively as Jackson and the woman approach them. The thrones are arranged in semicircular fashion, with the 2 central thrones slightly more ornate than the others. The 3 men sat on his right and the 3 women on his left.
"My lords and ladies, I present to you Mr. Jackson Daniels,"
the woman says. Jackson watches as she curtsies, her head bowing low before she quickly scampers off to the side of the room.
Please step forward, Mr. Daniels.
The man sitting in the center throne says, neither his face or voice betraying his emotions. Jackson does as he is told, nervously walking across the floor until he is standing only a few feet away from the stage they are sitting on. The woman beside him scowls down at him. "You are late."
I apologize, Your Grace.
Jackson replies meekly, his head bowing down slightly. "We shall forgive the insult this once," she warns. "However, do not make the same mistake again. We take punctuality very seriously here."
I won't.
"Then let us get down to business, shall we?"
The man in the throne left of center growls.
Come now, Micah.
The man in the middle throne frowns.
There's no need to be so hostile to our guest.
We could have been long done with this formality had the idiot arrived on time. Alice was right about punctuality, you know.
Micah sneers as he looks at Jackson. She wasn't right, another woman scoffs. Alice just thinks she runs this place.
Knock it off, Lily.
A third man groans. All of you need to stop bickering and let us get to what this young man is here for. Jesus, Leo, have some respect, the third woman commands.
Christina, enough of this foolish banter. Mr. Daniels, please excuse my brothers and sisters. They have different opinions on how things should be ran around here. Micah and Alice have a low tolerance for people whom are not here on schedule. We are the lords and ladies of this manor. My name is Dominic, and it is a pleasure to finally meet you. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions if you do not understand what I am about to say.
Dominic kindly smiles.
Now, we have invited you to our home because of your cravings and the difficulty we know you have had in finding the things you need.
Which things would that be?
Jackson inquires.
Your preference for the things that send your mind into an alternative state to help you escape from the reality you are currently in. Am I correct to assume this is your reason for accepting our invitation?
It is.
Excellent. We are prepared to offer you a taste of something we have created ourselves, tailored to the person using it, a chemical that will help you achieve the bliss that your mind so desperately wants. However, we can only give it to you if you agree to spend the night here so we may see how this particular substance affects you. Do you agree to our terms?
Dominic raises his eyebrow. Jackson hesitates for a moment, seemingly to contemplate the pros and cons of this situation. The offer seems simple enough. Spend the night in this eerie Victorian house with these obvious delusional people for the thing he wants the most.
I agree.
Jackson nods. Dominic stands up from the throne. He walks down the 3 small steps of the stage and throws his arms atop Jackson's shoulders. A confused expression appears on Jackson's face as Dominic quietly turns him to the left. The 2 men walk side by side across the room while the others wickedly grin to one another. Jackson begins to tremble as they approach the red door. Dominic places his hand on the handle, pushes it down, and pulls the door open. They step inside of the room. The walls are painted a darker red than the door had been. Elegant mahogany tables rest in the middle of the room with delicious-looking pastries. Small glass bottles of different colored liquid sits beside the silver trays as well as multiple packaged syringes. Other people comfortably relax in chairs or small couches. The glossed over look in their eyes causes a smile to spread across Jackson's lips. He must know that he has indeed come to the right place, even if for one night. The other people seem to be enjoying the high he had been promised. The newly created stuff Dominic had talked of excites him. He wants the high of a lifetime, and this is the only place he will get it at.
Welcome to the drug den.
Dominic chuckles. Dominic removes his arm from Jackson's shoulders. He places his hand on the small of Jackson's back before gently nudging him further into the room.
This is incredible,
Jackson says in awe.
Please, treat yourself to anything you like. You may choose a place within this room to sleep for the night, but do not, under any circumstances, leave here after 9.
Jackson eyes him warily.
Why can't I leave the room after 9?
There's no need to worry, Jackson.
Dominic reassures him gently.
It's as we told you before. We merely wish to ensure we are able to monitor you for any reactions. And that is hard to do if we do not know where you are.
Jackson nodded, thinking this to be a reasonable request.
If you need anything that is not already provided, please press the button beside the door and someone will be right in to assist you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Dominic quickly exits the room, shutting the door behind him. Jackson's eyes dart all around the room, taking in every single detail that he can in order to remember what this place looked like before he injects himself with the substance he had been promised. He eagerly hurries toward the table in the center of the room. He picks up one of the tasty-looking pastries and takes a rather large bite. The gooey center of the pastry drops onto the carpet below when Jackson pulls back to look at it. He chews the baked, flaky crust while glancing along the rest of the table. He cannot wait to get a hold of the thing that he had come here for, the sweet nectar which perfects his life. 3 bottles of violet liquid catches his attention. The pastry falls atop the table as he picks up the bottle to closely examine it. This seems too easy. Jackson had been expecting to pay for the stuff he wanted, the stuff he needed. He slowly walks around the rest of the room, taking in the appearance of the other participants. He must be thinking that they are participating in the same offer that he had been presented with. Something about the look on their faces unnerves him. Each with an identical expression seeming like a mix between ecstasy and terror. The situation makes Jackson nervous to the point that his body begins to tremble once more. He retreats toward the door that Dominic had walked him through. His hand grips the handle in an attempt to escape from the predicament he has gotten himself into. However, the door will not budge. His finger hits the red button beside the door to try and contact someone, but no one answers.
Someone will be right in to serve you, huh?
Jackson scoffs.
That's complete bullshit. Even I know that.
You aren't going to make it out of here.
A man slowly slurs, his eyes glazed over as he stares at the door.
What do you mean?
No one leaves the drop den.
Fuck no. I changed my mind. Let me out.
Jackson yells as he kicks and bangs on the door, adrenaline pumping through his veins as he tries to escape. He mashes the button and screams until his voice becomes hoarse, but his efforts to back out of the deal have proved to be futile. He had came here with the intent of buying a product to leave with an experience at home. But now he is stuck in a room with no escape. Jackson sits down in a corner, secluded from every other person in the room, and he leans his head against the cool wall. Unimaginable thoughts race through his mind. The lure of his vice weighed against the fear from being trapped in this room. His desire for release fighting against the image of the tortured faces of the others with him. How long had they resisted, he wondered. Did they give in instantly, or did they do as he is doing and resist? An unknown amount of time passes by with Jackson deep in thought, his eyelids slowly sinking down as he fights the fatigue that threatens to overwhelm him as the adrenaline wears off. Light snoring soon fills the silent room and all is calm again. The red door slowly creaks open shortly after, and a figure creeps over to the man sleeping in the corner. It kneels down, sniffs the man's hair and frowns. Jackson lacked the aroma he was expecting. A tongue glides over Jackson's cheek, which makes the figure grunt in disgust. Somehow the sleeping man had managed to resist the urge for their creation. The figure hastily retreats from the room when Jackson stirs. His eyes groggily open to see the same room, and he curses himself for falling asleep. He stands up from the floor, joints cracking as he stretches his body after sleeping awkwardly against a wall. Jackson looks longingly toward the table in the center of the room. He tried to resist. He truly did. But the knowledge that release from his worries and the terror of the room is so close it's more than he can withstand. Slowly he walks over and picks up a vial of the liquid, hands shaking in anticipation. This will be different than any experience he has had before. He knows it. After all, the drug was made for him alone. The people had told him so. He inserts a syringe into the vial and fills it slowly, careful not to allow any air into it. It is quickly filled all the way with his liquid miracle. He wraps a provided elastic band around his arm, not wanting to take any chances and waste this gift he has been given. The needle pierces flesh as he inserts the metal tip into the vein of his left forearm. He pushes the top of the syringe down, causing his arm to burn as the unknown chemical rushes into his body. When it is finally empty of its contents, he pulls the needle out and allows it to fall to the floor, Jackson himself collapsing quickly after. He stares up at the ceiling, eyes glazing over with a euphoric haze while his limbs twitch. This is truly like nothing he had ever injected himself with before. The room darkens and Jackson isn't sure if it is his vision or the lights, but he doesn't care. So long as nothing interrupts this feeling, who cares if he has sight? The red door is pushed open, and 6 figures in dark cloaks glide into the room, each with a different object in their hands. They slowly make their way around the room, inspecting those who they had invited into their home and who had accepted their offer of bliss. They each select one person and stand before them, pulling the hood of their cloaks back to reveal the faces of each member from the throne room. Christina stands before the man who had warned Jackson of his fate. Micah hoists a petite woman over his shoulder as she mumbles to herself and drools down the side of his back.
Disgusting.
He mutters quietly.
Even like this, they still have no manners.
Dominic looks towards his brother.
Hush, Micah. Now is not the time for complaints. It is the time to rejoice in our success.
Alice and Leo chose a handsome man whom is relaxing in a large red chair beside the door, smiling as thoughts of what is to come runs through their heads. Lily kneels beside a girl laying on the floor at the back of the room. Poor girl. Far too young to suffer such a fate. And innocent. No vices or urges to lead her to us. What did we offer her to get her in here? She questions.
Money,
Micah said while smiling, his teeth shining brightly in the dark.
She was a single mother whose parents abandoned her. We merely offered her a chance to make enough to help raise her child.
Why, Micah? It almost seems as if you liked the poor girl,
teased Dominic.
Huh. She simply was the only one on time.
Dominic nods as he climbs on top of Jackson's convulsing body. The siblings all nod to one another. Their weapons of choice are slowly raised into the throat of their victims and carefully drawn across their necks. Blood draining down their bodies as their lives slowly and painfully end. Dominic stretches Jackson's left arm out, places the tip of his saw against the fold of the foolish man's elbow, and starts to cut. Blood leaks slowly down and sound of bone cracking makes the siblings erupt in laughter. A small piece of flesh is ripped from Jackson's arm and popped into Dominic's mouth, causing a satisfying groan to escape his throat. The drugs they have made truly do have a way to marinate the flesh of those that use it. If only Jackson had been here earlier and injected himself sooner, how delicious he would have been then. Damn his tardiness, and damn his lateness. Dominic's knife slides down Jackson's chest. His eyes widen at the sight of blood staining the man's pale skin. He leans down, his lips landing in the crimson-colored liquid. Slurping noises fill the room as each of the siblings take in their fill of their victims. Dominic licks up as much blood as possible just as he reaches into the chest cavity of Jackson. His fingers touch muscles, tissue, and slime-covered veins. He grabs the barely beating heart within his victim, watching as it struggles in futility, trying to keep its owner alive. He pulls it up with all of his strength and stares at the mighty thing in his hand before sinking his teeth deep into it. He glances at his siblings as he chews the sweet-tasting organ, the drug adding to an already euphoric flavor. Blood dripped down his chin and onto Jackson's face as he lay beneath Dominic. A wicked grin spreads across his lips as he takes another bite. He watches as the rest of his family tear into their victims, each one with matching grins as they feast upon their victims.
"Stupid boy!"
Dominic growls.
"I never expected you to actually take the drug. I only offered it because I thought you had the willpower to resist. This is not the fate I honestly wanted for you. You could have joined us. You could have been great."
Jackson's lifeless eyes stared at the ceiling above him, not hearing the words being softly spoken to him or the sounds of ripping flesh and cracking bone as it echoes through the room. The last thing Jackson probably heard was the sound of his arm being removed, but he was already too far gone from the drug to be able to react. He died with a shadow of pain marring the bliss of his high.
"My brothers, my sisters,"
Dominic exclaimed as he looked up from Jackson's body.
"Another year, another successful feast has been had. For over 200 years, we have enjoyed the flesh and blood of those who have accepted our offers. We nearly had a new sibling join us this year, but unfortunately his desire for release was his undoing. Nevertheless, we shall continue our search for another like us, even if it takes us another 200 years. After all, why should we deny the glorious feast to those who dare to taste it?"